The story begins by showing the infamous Russian prison, Kolmi. After their champion, Yuri Boyka, was gone, a new fighter had taken his place, a monster of a man, towering and massive. It took several guards, equipped with safety gear, just to control him. And anyone who stepped into the ring against him was almost guaranteed one thing: death. And this is Brahma Kumbara. And this is Boyka Anispurin. But the story still revolves around the most complete fighter in the world. Who else but Yuri Boyka? After gaining his freedom with the help of Gagasi, a mafia boss, Boyka continued his passion, fighting. But this time it wasn't in a prison ring. He had moved up to professional fights, though still at a lower level, competing in small-scale tournaments. After every fight, Boyka would visit a small church, partially funded by his prize money. The priest there always told him, "What you give is good, but how you earn it, that's not the right path." No matter what Boyka called it, sport or art, fighting always meant hurting others. And that thought lingered in his mind as he started to question his future in the sport. Then one day, during training, his manager showed up with big news. A major league tournament in Budapest, Europe was coming up. This could be Boyka's golden ticket to the big leagues. But first, he had to prove himself in front of the promoters who were coming that very night. When the moment of the fight arrived, Boyka's manager told him his opponent was a fierce and deadly fighter, one of the best. The manager's words ignited Boyka's infamous temper. He considered himself the best, and that statement only fueled his determination. His opponent? Victor, a fellow Russian fighter also aiming for the big leagues. But Victor was nowhere near Boyka's level. Every time he got back up, Boyka knocked him down again. It was clear Victor was pushing himself too hard. Fueled by his manager's words, Boyka unleashed his full power without hesitation. The result? The promoters were impressed. They wanted Boyka in the Budapest League. But as he was leaving, the harsh reality of the sport hit him. Victor had suffered a severe concussion and was rushed to the hospital. Then, the shocking news arrived. Victor had died on the way to the hospital. For the first time, Boyka, always arrogant and indifferent, felt a deep sadness. He couldn't shake off the guilt. Technically, Victor had died because of him. Instead of preparing for the big league, Boyka found himself worrying about Victor's family. He soon learned that Victor had just gotten married and his wife was left to face the world alone. More than that, she was from Russia, just like Boyka. So, Boyka made a decision. He had to go there. He had to meet Victor's wife and apologize in person. And that's when we meet Alma, Victor's wife, attending his final farewell. At the same time, we meet another key figure in this story. Let's just call him the boss, the most powerful man in town, a mafia kingpin, a ruthless loan shark. As if losing her husband wasn't enough, Alma soon discovered that Victor had left behind a massive debt to the boss, possibly from gambling or supporting a political cause. And now Alma had to take responsibility for it. With no way to pay it back as a kindergarten teacher, Alma had no choice but to work at the boss's nightclub until the debt was cleared. Meanwhile, Boyka finally arrived in a small Russian town, Alma's home. Wasting no time, he went straight to the kindergarten where she worked. But before he could reach her, he witnessed something shocking. Alma, escorted by several men, was being taken into a car, headed to the boss's club. Thanks to some info from a school guard, Boyka headed straight to the club. There he found Alma working as a waitress, serving the guests. At the same time, a fight was happening, a brutal match between the boss's champion, Igor, and a challenger who didn't stand a chance. Just as Boyka was about to talk to Alma, the boss, watching everything through the CCTV, ordered his men to throw Boyka out. But they made a mistake. They tried to do it forcefully. And if there's one thing you never do, it's underestimate Boyka. In mere moments, Boyka took down several men effortlessly. The boss, sensing that Boyka was no ordinary man, decided to let him go. But had he known who stood before him, he would have been terrified. The next morning, still haunted by nightmares, Boyka went to find Alma at the school again. He was immediately stopped by one of the boss's guards, stationed there to keep an eye on her. But the poor guy didn't know who he was messing with. One punch from Boyka, and it would be game over. No small talk, no sugarcoating. Boyka went straight to the point. He admitted he was the last man to fight Victor. He had come to give Alma the money he won, hoping it would help her in some way. Alma, still grieving and full of anger, wasn't ready to forgive him. But she did take the money. Even though Victor's death was an accident, Alma couldn't accept Boyka's apology. Not yet. Meanwhile, back at the boss's club, the man himself was growing bored. The fights weren't entertaining enough. They lacked excitement. The audience wasn't thrilled. He needed a fighter who could bring real adrenaline to the ring, someone who would make people bet more money. And just like that, his wish was granted. Because that's when Boyka walked in. He made an offer. 3 fights. If he won them all, Alma's debt would be cleared and she would be free. The boss agreed. As Boyka left to start training, one of the boss's men couldn't help but ask, "Why did you agree to this? Do you even know who he is?" The boss smirked. "You don't know. The man who just wrecked you is a legend, a prison legend. The most complete fighter in the world." And with that, Boyka's journey into the underground fights began.